Welcome back. It's Sunday, January 22nd. Happy Lunar New Year. I've decided that I'm going to proceed with a book study. And how am I going to proceed? I'm going to proceed this way. I'm not going to worry about editing out stuff because it takes way too much time and effort. So, what you see is what you get. Um, Two, I'm going to try to be as honest and authentic as possible with you as I read this book with you. It's going to be challenging, and not just because I give challenges on every one of my videos, but because I've just realized a lot about this book that I haven't really wanted to own up to. Um, so, nothing like the present. Let's just start. And this is probably going to go over 12 minutes. So if you don't have that much time, that's fine. You can always stop and come back to it. And you know what? I actually was going to make some tea, and I put it's in the microwave. That's okay. I don't need tea. If you want to get tea, just pause this. Go get it, because I don't know how to pause this from recording. I don't even know if you can do that. Again, what you see is what you get. I'm going to dive right in and share with you my experience of this book because I have never read it. And I had to search all over the place. As you can see behind me, I've got, books and books and books and books, shelves of books here, many of which I have not read. Why? Because I tend to be a workaholic. I get all this stuff and I say, oh, I'll get to it someday. I'll get to it someday. And you know what? That's the precise message of this book. One of the many. And I have not read it. I only read the first 27 pages. Actually, I probably read the first 35 pages way back when, but who knows when? Who knows how far I got in the book? But I didn't get through the whole thing because I don't remember much of any of it. What I do know is that it's about a dying man and someone visiting him once a week because it's called Tuesdays with Morrie. But that's all I remember about the book. I also, deep down, I'm just being honest, have avoided reading this book because it's about a man that's dying. Who wants to read about someone that's dying? How depressing. But you know what? There's two different ways of looking at life. We could say that every day we're getting closer to death, or every day we're getting more into life. And every day and every moment gives us choices to make. What are we doing? Are we moving into death or are we moving into life? Okay, enough of the big philosophical ideas, speech, and stuff. Okay, so let's talk about doing a book study. Okay, I was a student once. Actually, you know what? We're students for our whole lives. So when you do a book study, you're really supposed to investigate the whole book because you're studying it, right? You're discovering it. So let's do that. And this is what I did today because I was like, oh, I bought it at chapter 11. I don't even remember where this discount bookstore is. So I started narrowing it down. And I thought, wait a minute, You Are Here is on the bookmark from the store. And as I looked at the different locations, I noticed that it must have been in Georgia. And most of my time spent in Georgia was after I started teaching. And I'd go there on the summertime because teachers don't do much. They only work 9 months out of the year. So 3 months they have off. They really don't have off. But anyhow, so I would visit Atlanta during the summers and visit a high school friend of mine that is also a teacher, lives down there, and he'd be so kind as to put up with me for a week or 10 days or 14 days or whatever. He's very laid back. His name is Andy. Love him. Um, so I thought if this was purchased in Atlanta, I probably was there during the time that I had first started teaching. So I wrote down on a sheet of paper, as you can see right here, I put down between 1997 and 2001. And then I wrote down, you know what? Most likely it was not the last year or so. And I wrote down 1999. Then in my book investigation, remember, we're getting back to the book study now. So let's investigate the book. We look at the cover. We read, oh, this has a sleeve. Okay? Or you can call it a cover if you want. Okay? So what is being said about this book? This is a sweet book of a man's love for his mentor. It has a stubborn honesty that nourishes the living. That's a quote by Robert Bly, author of Iron John. I don't think I read that book. Then on the back, it talks about who the author is, Mitch Albom. Okay. I'll read that real quick. He writes for the Detroit Free Press and has been voted America's #1 sports columnist 10 times by the Associated Press sports editors. Albom, that's Mitch Albom, that's his name, a former professional musician, hosts a daily radio show on WJR in Detroit and appears regularly on ESPN's The Sports Reporters. He is the author of Bo and Fab Five, both national bestsellers, and has also published 4 collections of his columns. He lives with his wife, Janine, in Michigan. Okay, so all this kind of strikes close to home for me because I'm from northern Indiana, and we used to drive through Detroit on the way to Port Huron, where my mother's family lives, because they still live there. And we would traverse through that area a lot. And so when I am remembering as when I first looked at this book and looked at this, oh, this is cool because it's close to home. And then I do remember, because I just reread the first 27 pages just a couple minutes ago before I decided to make this video. And as I started reading it, it also struck home to me the reason that I bought this. Because I was teaching and living in Boston, and Mitch is a graduate of Brandeis University, which is just outside of Boston in Waltham, Massachusetts. So when I bought this, I was actually living in Boston at the time, even though I was vacationing in Atlanta. Okay, so we've looked at the cover, right? We've looked at the sleeve. It's a very nice hardcover book. Very well preserved. All the times that I've moved. So anyhow, remember how I said I kind of narrowed it down to 1999? Well, whenever I bought, back in the day, I really don't do it too much anymore, but when I would buy a book, I would sign my name and I would put the year. And sure enough, it was in 1999. Tuesdays with Morrie, title page. Another part of the book is mentioning some of the titles that he's written. There's a picture of Morrie. Another title page. All the information that you would find if you needed to do a bibliography. There's a dedication. This book is dedicated to my brother Peter, the bravest person I know. So when I would start reading books when I was a student, way back when, I I would not do this. I would not look at the cover. I might look at the cover if I was going to buy it, but if I was assigned this for class, I just want to get it done. Okay, so I wouldn't be doing all of this book study stuff. So I'm asking you to kind of bear with me. And we're going to only read the first 10 pages. If we look at the contents, there's acknowledgments, then there's all the chapters. If I was a student, I would look through this and go, oh my God, it's 190 pages. Okay, acknowledgments. Let's go ahead and go through it. I would like to acknowledge the enormous help given to me in creating this book, for their memories, their patience, and their guidance. I wish to thank Charlotte, Rob, and Jonathan Schwartz, Morrie Stein, Charlie Derber, Gordy Fellman, David Schwartz, Rabbi Al Axelrad, and the multitude of Morrie's friends and colleagues. Also, special thanks to Bill Thomas, my editor, for handling this project with just the right touch. And, as always, my appreciation to David Black, who often believes in me more than I do myself. Mostly, my thanks to Morrie for wanting to do this last thesis together. Have you ever had a teacher like this? That's kind of our first challenge. So I hope as we're going through this, you're writing down all these challenges. The first challenge is this: make a list of folks that have mentored you or have been a mentor for you. So people that you looked up to. It's all going to make sense in a little bit, because this is one of the reasons I avoided reading this book, because it brought me back to the people that actually helped shape the person that I've become. First chapter, the curriculum. The last class of my old professor's life took place once a week in his house, by a window in the study, where he would watch a small hibiscus plant shed its pink leaves. The class met on Tuesdays. He began after breakfast. The subject was the meaning of life. It was taught from experience. No grades were given, but there were oral exams each week. You were expected to respond to questions, and you were expected to pose questions of your own. Hey, this sounds like great challenges to add to our challenge list. So, you're expected to pose some questions for the author, but pose some questions about your own life as we go along. Okay, back to the book. You were also required to perform physical tasks now and then, such as lifting the professor's head to a comfortable spot on the pillow, or placing his glasses on the bridge of his nose. Kissing him goodbye earned you extra credit. No books were required, yet many topics were covered, including love, work, community, family, aging, forgiveness, and finally, death. The last lecture was brief, only a few words. A funeral was held in lieu of graduation. Although no final exam was given, you were expected to produce one long paper on what was learned. That paper is presented here. The last class of my old professor's life had only one student. I was the student. It was the late spring of 1979, a hot, sticky Saturday afternoon. Hundreds of us sit together, side by side, in rows of wooden folding chairs on the main campus lawn. We wear blue nylon robes. We listen impatiently to long speeches. When the ceremony is over, we throw our caps in the air and we are officially graduated from college, the senior class of Brandeis University in the city of Waltham, Massachusetts. For many of us, the curtain has just come down on childhood. We're officially adults. That's not in the book. I just ad-libbed that part. Okay, back to the book. Afterward, I find Morrie Schwartz, my favorite professor, and introduce him to my parents. He is a small man who takes small steps, as if a strong wind could, at any time, whisk him up into the clouds. In his graduation day robe, he looks like a cross between a biblical prophet and a Christmas elf. He has sparkling blue-green eyes, thinning silver hair that spills onto his forehead, big ears, a triangle nose, and tufts of graying eyebrows. Although his teeth are crooked and his lower ones are slanted back, as if someone had just punched them in, when he smiles, it's as if you just told him the first joke on earth. He tells my parents how I took every class he taught. He tells them, "You have a special boy here." Embarrassed, I look at my feet. Before we leave, I hand my professor a present, a tan briefcase with his initials on the front. I bought this the day before at a shopping mall. I didn't want to forget him. Maybe I didn't want him to forget me. I often wonder if he went to the Watertown Mall, because that's kind of near Waltham. But he could have went to the Burlington Mall too. Okay, back to the book. "Mitch, you are one of the good ones," he says, admiring the briefcase. Then he hugs me. I feel his thin arms around my back. I am taller than he is, and when he holds me, I feel awkward, older, as if I were the parent and he were the child. He asks if I will stay in touch, and without hesitation, I say, "Of course." When he steps back, I see that he is crying. That's all I'm going to read today, because it's 18 minutes in, and part of the challenge when you're reading this book, the first 27 pages, let's agree on that, okay? Actually, let's go up to page 29. Okay, that gets us through to the end of the chapter that's called the orientation. Okay, because your book, if you're reading a different version of the book, it might be paged differently, or if you're in a Kindle edition or something. Back at this time, there was no Kindle editions when I bought this back in 1999. Read up to page 29. I want you to come up with 5 words that come to mind. Now, you don't do all 5. If you get 3, great. You met the expectation. 5, you've gone up and above and beyond. So look for 5 words that come to mind that strike you in reading this first 5 pages, or first 29 pages. And there are going to be 5 words that you're coming up with. And why 5? Well, I thought it would be easy. There's 5 fingers on one hand, so try that. If you can only do 3, that's fine too. I hope you bought the book. I hope you're going to be enjoying this book study. Be better. Do better. Thank you.